Welcome to the Action Shooting Show. Tonight I have Mike Ford on, and we are going to be talking about the Whiskey Hotel Team Ruck match. So we've done two other after actions on this on their summertime Team Ruck match. This was the first ever Team Ruck match in the winter. I guess you could say winter edition. So that was the beginning of February, February 1st. So a couple weeks have passed here, but we're going to start talking about it. So I'll just get into it. The match flavor, this is not a run and gun like we do, like kind of we mostly do. This match is actually I don't really know anyone else doing this. So you have shooting stages. You have, in this case, there was 3 rucks that you went on, and you kind of do these throughout the day. So everyone starts on the very first stage, which is kind of they do like 3 or 4 waves, depending on how many teams are there. You shoot side by side. So we'll get into that in a second. But after that, you go to a kind of command center, and they give you your next task. So it could be a ruck, it could be a stage. I've said before, I really like the way they do it. They've basically got a table with all of the events on it. So every stage, every ruck, and then each team has a little like index card, and they just look on the table and see what's empty and what's got a bunch of people at it, and that's where they send you next. So and they just kind of keep the flow through the day going that way. It's kind of nice. You have a little bit of time to, I won't say rest, but like you can head back to your car and like top off ammo if you need to. You do need a certain amount of ammo on you. We'll kind of get into that. But so you can go back to that. You can grab drinks, top off your water, maybe grab a quick bite to eat, kind of whatever you need there. So it's not like a run and gun where you're keeping all of your gear on you, but there is a minimum loadout that you need. And besides that, it's kind of a neat event. You don't want to go, I would say you don't want to stop too long there because it can be a long day if you're just, taking a nap between stages. So, Mike, do you want to talk about the loadout that that you have to carry out there?
Yeah, so the cool thing about the Whiskey Hotel match is Jimmy, the gentleman that puts them on as the match director, wanted to build a hybrid match between a combat type event and a shooting match, and his goal is to get military and law enforcement shooting. And I think he found that it's really the civilian realm that's getting after it at his matches. So he requires battle rattle. And so for the competition division, you are required to have so many magazines on you full, as well as a quart of water on your load bearing equipment, as well as your carbine. Pistol is optional, and on your carbine you have to have a light. So there's a variety of lights being run from NV compatible stuff to uh, pistol lights that were put on to suffice. And I even saw somebody tape a light onto their rail. So, yeah, that guy. So, those requirements in themselves build a challenge because, on top of that kind of first line of kit, you're also required to have a ruck. And that ruck for the competition division would be a minimum of 25 pounds at all times. And they want it to be non-consumable, so you can put ammo in there, but it's non-consumable. That's going to ride around with you for the entire match. Ryan and we did, I think it was about 5 mags of rifle ammo, um, just for the weight, and then also instead of using like steel plates and things like we had done in the past, we use shooting bags and tripods, things that were going to give us some more utility in the field to try to really marry up with the theme of the match. So the kit itself could be a little bit more involved than like your traditional running gun, but I think that the requirements tend to lean towards the practical side, especially considering it's themed as a combat ruck match.
Yeah, so part of this kit, I maybe Mike said it and I just forgot, is 5 full magazines on you at all time. So we had that. Generally, I had 5 magazines in my chest rig, and then I had 5 empty magazines in my ruck. I was able to make all my weight without, counting magazines or extra stuff like that. But so part of having those empty mags, and also I had like 40 or 50 rounds of loose ammo that didn't count towards my weight, but that I had in there. And part of that reason was because some stages have specific loadouts. The first stage, for example, when we get into that, we'll have that. The specific loadouts, I found it easier just to load empty magazines to whatever that loadout was and just keep those 5 mags full most of the time. Now, if it was a stage where you could just start with your full loadout, I just started with that, and then I topped them off back at the car afterwards or in the loose ammo. So, yeah, it's the water, the 25-pound ruck, however you want to carry the 5 mags on you. I think most people did chest rigs. And the other kind of thing with that is he wants you starting, however you start the day, that's how he wants you to keep your gear all day long. So, like, you may have a bipod for your rifle. If it starts on the gun, it can stay on the gun all day. If it starts in your pack or in your, like Mike, I think, had a pouch that he was keeping it in, that's fine to keep it there. You keep it there all day, but if you want to use it on a stage, you don't just get to toss it on before the stage. They give the beep, you go toss it on and make ready. It's kind of meant to, kind of like if you're out in patrol, you're out doing your thing, that you're ready, and that's how your gun's going to be. So that's kind of the intent. That's what we try to do. We try not to add or subtract, short of, like I said, like we go back and top off my extra ammo, and maybe if we know the next stage we're going to, we'll load those empty mags with the loadout that we need. So that was kind of the situation with that. So Mike, anything else before we go into this Mad Dash first stage?
No, I think we touched on it, and for if people want to hear other references to the required kit, they can always go back to our previous episodes.
Yep, absolutely, and check the rules, because he may change them time to time just to keep things fresh. So first stage is always Mad Dash. It's not the same exact stage, but the same general idea. So you will start with 4 magazines with 10 rounds, or 4 magazines with 5 rounds, 1 magazine with 10 rounds. So there's your 5 mag loadout, except not full in this case. This time we started kind of back of they had like a bunch of landscaping timbers making a wall. So you started like 20 yards behind that or something like that, 25, 30 yards. And on the beat, you all ran up next to each other. When you got to that firing line, you loaded your rifle. You could use the wall as a barricade, to rest on it, over, under, however you wanted. I think me and Mike both did kneeling. And you had paper targets, so every team had a line. So we were I think we were 5. We were in station 5 or whatever. So you run up to station 5, get down, make your gun ready, and out 300 yards away are 2 targets stacked on top of each other with 5 spray painted on them. And that is our target. So in this case, so they had an alpha target and a bravo target. So you get in position with your first mag once you're loaded, 5 rounds on the alpha target, reload, 5 rounds onto the bravo target. So each person is shooting at the same target. So if you shoot perfect at the end of the stage, there should be 10 rounds in the alpha and 10 rounds in the bravo. And if we haven't said yet, on this time, it's they score. So it's IDPA. So there's a round A zone, then your C zone, and then your D zone. and anything outside of that is not worth anything. So a point for A, half a point for C, quarter point for D, misses or zeros. So this whole thing's a points match. So that's the first stage, or first part of that. So you kind of reset, get your magazines up off the ground, get yourself ready. In this case, we stepped over the wall, the other side. And then from that point, on the next mark, and I should have said that first one, I believe we had 55 seconds or something like that, 50 seconds, somewhere around that for each of these. So they gave the call, go, whatever. You sprinted forward 50 yards. There was some cones on the ground, and that was your next position. I'm looking at my notes here. The second firing line was let me look here. Standing unsupported, so just standing up offhand, and you did 5 rounds, you reloaded, and then kneeling 5 rounds. And in this case, both rounds were on the alpha target, I believe. You were only shooting at the alpha this time. Or maybe it was the same. I'm looking at the things. Could have been alpha and bravo again, but I want to say it was only the alpha target, but I could be wrong. So again, there's 5 rounds, and then your partner's 5 round and 5 rounds. Once you reset from that, we all stood up. They give you the call again, another 50 seconds. You have to go forward. You go prone, load in your 10-round mag in this case, and you have that 50 seconds to get as many shots off, or all your 10 shots off on that target from that third position. So 300 yards, 250, 200. Very, very difficult stage. I want to say we scored like 20 and a quarter points on that or something like that. Really, we were not happy with it. We're never happy with it after we're done with this stage. It's a very rough stage, but it ended up not being. I mean, people scored more. There was certainly a lot less. Yeah, I mean, it was probably mid-pack or a little bit up. It really wasn't the start that we would have liked, but we could have done worse. Very, very difficult stage, though. So, Mike, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I love this stage, even as infuriating as it can be at times, because I really see the utility in this. And I think Jimmy understands this with his background and appreciates our nation's history as Minutemen and as riflemen. And because of that, I think he also loves to do this stage. That rush to get into that first firing position, it really starts to put pressure on people to get in there, get their shots off. It was a little rough for Ryan and I. Ryan took the lead on the sprint to our position, and the position numbers were numbered in red spray paint. So Ryan, bless his heart, went about 15 feet down the rail to the left. So I'm like, no, over here. And the people that he slid in front of are like stopping and like trying to cram in there with them. And so then Ryan came and joined me. So we had a little bit of
for those that don't know, I'm red-green colorblind, and that comes into effect in a lot of matches, unfortunately.
Yep, so we had a little bit of a kerfluffle, so to speak, getting into our first position and lost a little bit of time. So I got all my rounds off in that position, but I think one. But hey, things happen. That being said, I liked the fence. It brought the painting to my mind of the militiamen engaging the redcoats on their way to seize the munition stores in the beginning of the American Revolution. So for me, that was exciting, and I enjoyed it. That rush up to the next position is always a challenge to get there quickly, but to not lose your kit and to not uh, uh, come in so hot that you create more trouble for yourself when you try to get stationary. I think I grabbed a magazine off the ground for somebody on the way up to one of those next positions. But again, it's such practical rifle work, because you're searching for your target and a field of targets, identifying this is my target. I'm shooting my top or my bottom, trying to stabilize and get those shots. I know that Ryan and I definitely plan to try to get a little bit more practice before we go and do this again in the summer. But again, one of my favorite stages. I can't really ever find any critiques for Jimmy on this stage. I think it just generally comes back to shooters happen to practicing it better themselves. So that's it for
Yep.
me on that one.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, it shows you where you're, I mean, those are all fundamentals. Standing, kneeling, prone, like supported kneeling. That's all fundamentals. So we got done with this, headed back to the kind of command center, and they kind of said, "What do you want to do?" Well, let's do a ruck. We usually like to try to get a ruck out of the way right off the bat. You're fresh, get to running. So I wish I had a list. Was it the white ruck we did first, Mike? I don't remember the colors. This ruck was, when I look at my Garmin, I got 0.75 miles. So generally he says they're about a mile each. I think that's give or take, but they're all doable. So the thing about the rucks is they have to 15 minutes and under, you get your full points. And I forget how many it is. Over 15 minutes, however, it's like a percentage, like every 15 seconds, it's so many percentage of a point off or points off. So we kind of aim, to our mind, if you have the fitness, the rucks are free points. You know what I mean? Like, as long as we bust butt and get in under 15 minutes, we get all the points for free. So this one we made under the 15 minutes. I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, this was probably the easiest ruck of the day. Well, no, I take that back, because this one you went down the road a little bit. We got up into the woods, into a hill, and kind of it just kept going up. You're kind of beating brush to get up there, and then you just kind of curved around, and you get to, there's just a little placard with some numbers or something on it, and then we got that, and you just reverse course. So not difficult, but not easy either. So definitely all the rucks, two of the three rucks were in the woods this time, or maybe all three were in. No, I can't remember. Mike, were all of them in the woods this time? I know at least two of the three. The first and the last one we went in the woods.
Yeah, we went off-roading for all of them.
Okay. So anything to add on that ruck? I mean, it's a pretty straightforward. Just get there, beat bush, get back.
Yep, it was just pushing hard and trying to beat that clock. That's one thing of spending time in the woods is a good thing, because you can learn to pick your way through it pretty quickly. But that's all I got to add there.
Yeah, and this one you had a pretty good hill you were going up, and I know I lost my suppressor cover. We found it on the way back. Luckily, we kind of stayed the same trail. So we got from that, got our points, and they sent us off to random SRM drills. So this was a little bit different. I really enjoyed this one. So you had to, and this is a theme for all of his stages except for the hidden stage, and that two teams can shoot the stages at the same time. So they'll have whatever stage you're shooting is either mirrored or laid out the exact same. So in this case, you had a team on the left, team on the right. You had targets, like 4 targets starting at about 10 yards out to about 40 or 50 yards, scored paper. And your team started with all empty magazines. You could put like 10 magazines on the table or something. I think he told us as many as you wanted. We didn't, if we had 10, it wasn't many more. And then we had a couple piles of ammo. And the first shooter to go flips a card over. They got this little Rolodex with cards, flips it over. That tells you what drill you're doing, and that tells you what kind of loadout you need. So for instance, this is a 1 reload 1. at 5 yards, but in this case, it was 6 one-round magazines. So this could be a really fun stage or maybe a really frustrating stage. We read through and all these they give you, that's how I'm reading this, they give you a printout beforehand. So like when we're going over the stage, we can read the printout, we can see how many rounds we need or like what's going on. So looking at this, I kind of had the idea, because as the first person starts shooting, the next person can be loading magazines, however, preparing for their turn. You don't know what the next drill is, so you don't know what loadout you need, but they said it'll be a max of 6 rounds. It'd be as few as 1, but a max of 6 rounds. So we decided we would do 6 one-round magazines, we would do 2 4-round magazines, and 2 6-round magazines. And this worked really well for us in that, one, all the one-round magazines are loaded. If you need 1 round, you got it, So like we quickly loaded 6 one-round magazines for Mike. The other thing is from 4 and 6, if you needed, or no, we did 2-round magazines, didn't we? We did 6.
Yeah, we had 6 some 2-rounders.
Yeah, 6 one-round magazines, 2 2-round magazines, and 2 6-round magazines. So from there, if you need 4 rounds, you can either upload the 2-round magazines real quick or download the 6, and then you've always got the 1. So all through the drills, we had these laid out on the table in a certain order, and that's what we were trying to keep kind of stocked up on the table. To me, that worked out real well. I don't know that you could do any better, except unless you knew it ahead of time. The other thing we did is when we were done with a magazine, instead of just dropping it on the ground to switch to the next one, we would just toss it behind us, because you were about 2 or 3 yards in front of the shooting lane was like 2 or 3 yards in front of the other shooter. So like we'd get done, toss it behind us, next guy would grab it as you're finishing shooting the rest of the drill, and he could be loading up. This kind of kept the loading while no one's shooting at a minimum. And again, these targets were from, they may say shoot 2 rounds on the 40, 2 rounds on the 50, 2 rounds on the 20 or something like that. Or, 3 reload 3. Here's one, 25 yards kneeling, 3 reload 3. Prone. I mean, there's all kinds of different things, but you would just grab whatever magazines you needed, upload, download, and go over there. I didn't really have a good way to hold my magazines as well, either in my legs or just kind of in my hand. Mike, I think, had a dump pouch, which was probably a better idea. I had a dump pouch. I just didn't think about opening it up. So anything to add on to that one, Mike?
I had a blast with that. We probably shot a little bit more conservatively speed-wise than we needed to. We might have been able to get one more drill in if we had really hammered down. I think that just comes down to the amount of practice and how comfortable we are right now with doing the hammer down type shooting. A lot of the stuff we've done has been a little bit more accuracy, that if you hammer down and miss, then you have to go up and make it. And there's no good feedback on the paper when you're shooting it, that if you're going too fast and missing. So we shot our comfort zone to maybe the edge of it, but didn't push probably how we should have. It was, again, a fun stage. I personally loved it. I would love to see something like that duplicated at other matches, because it really engaged your communication and your cognitive skills. It tripped me out for a second, because in the paperwork, the range had, or the targets were called out by range, but there was not the range that was called out on the paper. It was actually just an order. And so it took me a second to flip it and be like, hey, this isn't 40 yards. I mean the 4th target. Because I'm a pretty literal guy when it comes to understanding stage briefs and things like that. But it was a lot of fun, and we built a system that worked, with tossing empty mags back as soon as you can so your buddy could be filling them. And yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better teammate on that. So that's about all I got to add.
Yeah, that was fun, and you're right. We probably could have shot a little faster. We didn't drop many shots, which was good. This match, as much as you do need to shoot fast and make it under par times and stuff, you have to be accurate. You got to get the points. This one had a 6-minute par time. I forget how many points. I believe we were in second place on that one. Although the team that beat us by quite a number of points. Like it was, I think we were 32 maybe or something like that, and they got 40 something. I mean, it was clear they got at least one or two more rotations in, or did the same amount of
was they shot very quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're used to shooting close paper and feel pretty comfortable pushing a zone at that distance, then you're probably going to be able to rock that pretty quick. If you had the same communication ability that we had, you'd just be pushing the reps a little faster and a little farther.
Yep, and I'd have to imagine, I don't know who it was, I have to imagine they still shot pretty clean, even though they stepped on the gas a little bit, because you can't miss fast enough in that match. So,
single.
Yep.
All on the 30-yard target.
30, yep.
On. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
These are all we on 6.
1 minute left.
30! 30 yard!
Okay.
Number 3.
Yep. All right, turn it. Okay. What do we need?
1 round mag of 5, which is this one right here.
Okay, and a 1 and 1.
And
20
1.
seconds.
50 and 20.
50 and 20. The 5 is target 5. The single is target 2.
10 seconds.
Target 2.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time.
That could have gone way worse.
I'm trying to remember the order. Do you remember what we did next? Did we do the next ruck? Or did we do another stage?
I think that in the beginning we tried doing ruck stage. And
so that's
keep doing that for a little bit.
Yeah, we wanted to do, there was a ruck with a tire. I forget what color. That was too busy. So they sent us on another ruck. So that one, you kind of went up a hill a little bit. It's the one that took you by the blind stage. And you kind of bushwhacked into the woods, kind of weaved around. It was very muddy. There was a lot of brush you were climbing over. And, you go to a flag that you find in the ground. Mike was dragging me around on this one because I was a little slow. My Garmin said this one was 0.7 of a mile. And it looks like we got it done in 13:35. So it kind of followed the road, but up on a hill, ridge line. So very pretty. I mean, I want to have my phone out because you kind of had a view of the valley down below and the road, and it was really, really kind of a pretty area, especially during the winter. So we got back from that one, and I think, is that when they send us to the blind stage, but we didn't actually shoot the blind stage?
Yeah, we pretty quickly changed plans on that one. They were running a little behind. Maybe from our estimation, it would have been maybe about a 45-minute backlog before we could shoot, and we really didn't want to burn almost an hour just kind of standing there dormant. And
in retrospect, we really probably should have, knowing what we know now afterwards. But we'll get into that. But yeah, we didn't want to wait around, so on our way back there, they had kind of had a mix up. Someone thought there was 2 blind stages, and they sent us to They have a competitors division, and they have like I don't know if they call it just for fun division, but they're not. The stages sometimes are a little bit different. You don't have to carry as much weight. It's just like a lesser, I'll say a lesser division, but it's kind of for people who want to get their feet wet but don't want to go for the full thing. So they sent us to that, and then we were like, well, no, we need to shoot the competitors. The competitors was really long, so on the way back, we shot Hot LZ, which was a lot of fun. And in this case, they had someone with medical experience there, I believe like a paramedic or combat medic, something like that. And you had 3 targets going out. I want to say the first was probably around 100 to 250, maybe 200. They weren't crazy far. Maybe even starting at like 75 yards. And the first person, so in Mike's case, he ran forward and started shooting. And you have to shoot the target twice before you can move on to the next one. So you shoot close to far. And each time you go, you only have a certain amount of rounds in your mag, so 6 of them. So Mike ran forward, starts shooting. Each of these is a point. While he's doing that, the person back there gives whoever the other teammate a goal, something to do. So in this case, I think he had me put a tourniquet on. So I'm putting a tourniquet on, and he's making sure, it's got to be tight and the windlass wrapped around well enough, and then the little keeper tab across it. So Mike goes and shoots, and he went 6 for 6. So all 3 of them. The other thing is, once he gets back, I have to start wherever he left off. So he comes back, tags me in. I move forward, and as a second shooter, they had an AK, a stage gun. So I grabbed the AK, loaded it. They had a target, 8, 7, 10 yards, maybe probably 7 yards. And again, you're shooting for points. So iron-sighted AK, 10 rounds. So I put, or 10 rounds, 5 rounds, 6 rounds, whatever. I put all of them in the A zone. Clear the gun, set it down, go running back. And all this time, Mike is doing some kind of medical. So he was starting to do a chest seal. So they gave you some medical tape and a plastic bag to tape up a chest seal. So tape up 3 sides or 4 sides, but leaving a quarter open to burp the wound. So once I came back, we grabbed 2 tires that had a rope around it, and we drug those up to where all of our ammo was in a like an ammo pouch or whatever, kind of a sling. So Mike grabs that, runs forward. He starts shooting again. I go back to doing some other medical things, chest compressions on like a CPR dummy. And again, Mike shoots close to far. He got all his hits. He comes back, tags me in. He goes to doing medical stuff. I go up and shoot. And you do this to where Mike shot it 3 times. The distance, I shot 3 times, 1 the AK and 2 of the other targets. In this case, we ended up with 39 out of 40 points, I believe. I dropped my second to last shot. I'm pretty bitter about that still because I had plenty of time. I should have slowed down just a tad. But 39 out of 40, which still put us up in like second or third place, maybe tied for second or third. I think one team shot it clean, and I wouldn't be surprised if a couple other teams shot it close to clean like us, around 39. But very cool. I mean, you got the medical stuff going on, that paramedics kind of yelling at you the whole time, walking you through stuff, but just a good time to practice some of the medical stuff under a little bit of stress, and then still, being accurate and shooting quickly. What do you got to add to that, Mike?
That stage was a blast. It was definitely one of those that you shoot your crosshairs. And what I mean by that is get stable and, breathe out, get that impact, because if you shoot clean, you get to not only take those points home, but you don't have to convey where you left off to your partner. You just tell them start at the beginning. And it's a lot easier for your partner to start at the beginning if he's not having to count targets and figure out which is which. If he's colorblind, is it yours? Is it the people shooting next to you? So one of the things that I had done when I ran up there is I've got a shooting bag that's it's probably 6 by 4, maybe an inch thick. Um, it's more probably of a rear bag than anything. And since we were shooting off the that like split rail or that like creosote rails that they had there simulating like a low fence, I just threw it on top. So then when I went down to shoot, I just dropped to a knee, put my handguard on top of the bag, and then just I kept my right knee up so I could just drop my right elbow on top of my knee for bone on bone, and made for a pretty rock solid shooting position. So knowing that I really didn't have to account for drop, that was really the first time that I felt like I really was at home with that new scope that I was running. And yeah, shot that great. It had a lot of fun. Went back, and when you're doing the medical stuff, especially if you've got like a range officer observing you and either coaching or yelling, you absolutely have to get into it. Like for my part, when I started chest compressions, I absolutely started singing "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees, and yep, bellowed that out at the top of my lungs and had everybody staring. But if you're not out there having fun, why are you out there? So, yep, that was a great stage. Really enjoyed it, and yeah, that's about all I got.
Yeah. Yeah, very very fun stage. We'll probably I didn't think we didn't do it before. We'll hit some gear after the fact because I know Mike's gun changed a little bit on this match, and I shot about the same as I usually do. But all right, so after that we went back. They sent us to another stage. This next one was maybe my favorite stage of the weekend, and I really like this quote that they have at the bottom of it. It says, "America is all about speed, hot, nasty, badass speed," and that is Eleanor Roosevelt, according to the sheet. So this was called Backboard Around the Clock. Quite a few of usually they do a around the clock stage, which is just they give you certain amount of magazines or certain amount of ammo in each mag. In this case, it was as many mags as you wanted, fully loaded, and which you didn't need it. We never made it through a single mag. And then they do something. They give you so many shots that you can take until you have to go do something to earn more shots. So in this case, they had kind of a small obstacle course. They had a litter, and then they had like a bar of steel, like 6-foot bar of round stock on there, kind of strapped down. And I mean, between the litter and the metal on it, and I think it was only one piece, but it was not as heavy as a person, but still heavy enough. You started, your team had to move yourselves, your gear, your guns in the beginning. Or no, sorry, the guns started up at the front. But you had to move yourselves in the litter under through a barrel, which that barrel was just a 55-gallon drum with the ends cut off of it. So move yourselves through the barrel, then over a small wall, like 3-foot wall, you and the litter, and then you put it down, and then each shooter, you have to neutralize each target. So I think there was 3 or 4 targets, 4 targets, starting at, again, probably 100 yards out to 250, 300. And the trick was each shooter could only shoot one before the next one got to shoot. So, like, if I took a shot and missed, Mike had to then shoot that first target. And then if he got that first target, then I could shoot. But you could never shoot twice in a row without your partner shooting. So it was a good time. Mike, do you kind of want to explain how that went for us, since I've been doing a lot of talking?
Oh, it was an absolute bleep show. So this litter, the bar is only strapped down. My guess is, I don't know, it probably had to be maybe 60 pounds. Like it wasn't so much the weight, was the fact that you had this metal bar that was the length of the backboard, and it was only strapped down in the center. And so it was trying to go sideways across the board, and so you're trying to coordinate flying through this obstacle course, and the obstacles are the first one, a plastic 55-gallon drum with both ends cut off. Well, there was bigger guys than me there, but I tell you what, me with a chest rig and a gun belt trying to slide through like a slippery eel, yeah, no. Ryan moved through those barrels a lot faster than I did. I watched him go, and I was like, it's like he's got grease on.
Well,
So
we were muddy enough by the end that we were basically greased up because there was just big mud pit on the other side of that barrel.
yeah, so what we did was I had Ryan just start sliding through. I grabbed the stretcher in the middle and got it started through the tube to him. So then he turned around, finished getting it through the tube while I followed behind it. He got the front edge up on the wall because they had about a waist high wooden wall as the second obstacle. He went over, and then I helped get it up over, and then followed shortly behind. And then they had a second one of those god awful 55-gallon drums, and he would start through there, and I would start the backboard through. He would turn, yank it through, and then I would mosey my butt through trying to follow him. And by the time he had drop turned, and he was normally able to get his first shot off and was waiting on me to get to him. So normally when it comes to speed, not trying to be mean to Ryan, but when it comes to flat out speed, a lot of times I got him. Nope, he was the fast one through that obstacle course. I mean, he was like a daggone ferret. And so that was pretty cool how the shooting was. You had all the ammo you wanted for that stage. There was no caps on the rounds, but it had to go, you shot, your partner shot, you shot, your partner shot. So it would be really tempting to go out to the next target, but then if your partner missed, you had to go back and engage the one he did, and they were unknown distance. But I think Ryan and I estimated that it was probably around 250 and 3 is probably about the distances it was at. It might have been 175, 250 and 3. But they weren't ungenerous targets. They were probably 12 or 18-inch diamonds. But, hey, you're hurrying, and what you're shooting off of as your support is this like ghetto, like barely standing picket fence. So you lean too much into it, it moves on your partner, and vice versa. So we shot our first shots, turn around, grab the stretcher, tearing back, and so we're absolutely hauling. And one of the ROs that we like, he's hollering and giving us a hard time. And so we're going, and we think that we're doing awful. Like, come on, this definitely is not going how we want it to. You are gassed like you're doing burpees. I mean, absolutely 195 beat per minute gassed. And I mean, Ryan and I might not be doing all the hit in the world, but I mean, come on, we're able to crush some rucks and kind of hold our own for most physical challenges. But we were smoked. And this RO, we're shooting and doing these rounds, and RO's like, you got 1 minute left. And so Ryan and I are like, oh gosh, like we're not gonna like try to mail it in. Like we're actually gonna try to put maximum effort. So
Step on the gas.
we stomp on it, and we get it runs about 30 seconds a revolution. I mean, we are flying and dying at the same time. And we are like, 5 seconds left. Oh, wait, I was wrong. You have a whole nother minute. Well, like most people that have done any legitimate level of physical workout, when you're told you have a minute left and you give it like you don't have another minute, and then guess what? You got another minute. That was absolute torture. We didn't slow down. And honestly, our accuracy didn't drop off too badly, but Yeah, it's probably one of those things that you got to make sure you got good enough life insurance for the family at home in case you have a heart attack. But we crushed it, and we were told we had high score at that point, and then we learned that we had high score on that stage at the end of the day. And looking at the points on that, I think we got probably the closest team was 16, and we ended up with 20. So very likely we pulled off another one or two revolutions on top of the next team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 4 targets, so one more revolution, which in 6 minutes, six. I mean, so it's basically like full on balls to the walls for 6 minutes. That was definitely the hardest we worked all that day. I mean, for me, that was the hardest I worked.
100%, but there was a lot of validation in our teamwork and the being able to apply ourselves to getting hits. I think we each dropped a couple shots, but to go through 6 minutes of that level of chaos and only drop a couple shots each, I don't know. While there's definitely some stages that I walked away from that day shaking my head like, wow, I can't believe that's all we did. That was not one of them. I walked away proud as heck, and was really proud of my teammate on that. So, way to go, bud. You earned it.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely. You too. I mean, and that was definitely probably my favorite stage. Those are always fun, but it was a very just like, I know at the end of it, every time I jumped over that wall, because I would just like grab and like hop over, because it's too tall for me to just like put my leg over. I don't have long enough legs. But every time I hopped over, I'm just thinking this is going to be the time I don't have the energy to get my feet, and I'm just going to face plant over this, because I got it through enough. I would set the litter up there, I would jump over, and a lot of times I could get the litter over and be dragging it over to the barrel before Mike got through the barrel and up over the wall. So we did. I mean, we worked well as a team. We both shot pretty well. There was a couple times, especially as we got into it, and kind of, you didn't have to necessarily hold for these at this distance, but you definitely wanted to be like aiming up a little bit high. And like at one point where Mike was at, there was a tree that was in the way, or some kind of structure, wood, that was kind of blocking his shots. But we got to the point. I mean, there's a couple times where like I knew what Mike was shooting at, and I was on the next target. So when Mike broke and that rang, my next shot, I mean, as soon as I heard it rang, my next shot hit just a split second after him. So we definitely had the pedal to the metal on that one. It was a fun, tiring stage, and we got done, and like there were some people off to the side, and they were pretty stoked about the whole thing, congratulating us. And it feels good to be able to shoot your potential, really, really put in some hard work and have that work out. So from there, we headed back. We kind of wanted to save the last ruck to the very end if we could, because it looked kind of tough. And in this case, though, we were just like, there's the other stages have a lot of people on them. They need someone to do a ruck. We're just going to do the ruck now. So this one, you headed up the road a little bit, and we had already crossed it and kind of seen it. But they had a hillside at the side of the road, and then they had 3 little stations, and they had a tractor trailer tire on it, so a big semi tire with a rope on it. And as a team, you needed to get this semi tire up this hill. It's kind of I think a lot of this stage was kind of, so they had the medical, it was kind of like a getting people out of the fight, or, in this case, so this, you got to get your person up the hill.
Yeah,
And
Cassavac. The theme of the match
Cassavac.
was Cassavac.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So get this up. Once you got it to the top, you had a trail you went down, again, bushwhacking through the woods, kind of up a hill along the road a little bit. Again, very pretty, terrain. And then once you got to the little sign, you head back. Then you have to get that tire back down the hill without just like flinging the thing off, you and your partner. And then once it's down, you guys both get down and you head back. So my phone said was again 0.7 of a mile. They gave you 25 minutes for this one because I guess on RO day that tire was taking a lot longer. We actually did really well. We got that in 19 minutes, so we got under the par time on all 3 rucks, and that was probably, as far as everything, maybe our quickest one. The second ruck though, we did do a little bit faster. That was like 13 minutes or something like that.
Yeah,
and
after the tire ruck, we actually ended up having ROs weigh our packs. We smoked the rucks to the point that they were starting to wonder if we were carrying enough weight, which, wow, that's one of the nicest compliments you can get.
Yeah, I mean, when they weighed mine, and I had more ammo and stuff in it at other times, but mine was still 29 pounds, so I was 4 pounds over. Mike was like 26 something. He was only a little bit over, but that was definitely the lightest our packs were all day. So we were at least had the minimum, if not more. So that was a fun one. We found the trick was not to send both people up, because your initial inclination would be to both get up there and like try to pull it up. But that hillside, there's roots, there's rocks. So I kind of climbed up first using the rope. And then I got in a position where my feet could kind of be planted against a couple like honeysuckle bushes. And I basically kind of like doing rows. Like I grabbed the rope, Mike would try to push, and I would pull at the same time. He would kind of help guide it over top of roots and ruts and anything like that. And I think I got a couple good pulls in, almost pulled it out of his hands a couple times. So I was happy to be able to at least, kind of pull my weight there. The rowing machine's paying off, I guess. So anything else you're going to add to that, Mike, before we go on?
Yeah, that was a great physical challenge because it was like a semi-truck tire, so it wasn't a small one. And at first, I thought I was going to be able to push from the bottom, but the problem is it would bind the front edge and cause it to dig. So Ryan did an absolutely awesome job with the pool, but what I found was I had to climb up beside it and then lift the front edge and then shove up the hill and pull some weight off that edge, and that's when he was making the best progress with the rope. That was a team effort. That was definitely a challenge, but a good one. And glad nobody pulled anything or got hurt because, yeah, you're definitely trying to move weight from some weird braced angles.
Yep. And really for us, that was the high point. That was the high watermark for the day because our day got worse after that. So from there, we went to the blind stage. The first time we shot this match in the summer, we didn't do great at the blind stage. We came back last year for the summer and actually did really well. Could have done better, but still did very well. Found most of the targets, got a lot of hits. Wasn't the highest score, but still pretty solid score. This year, we kind of hit it. It was a hard stage in general. The time of day we hit it did not help us. Talking to the ROs, they said from the highest score was like early in the day, and they just said that the scores tapered off. They had just targets, not spray painted or anything, hidden in the woods up on this hill. None of them were necessarily that we found or heard about. I don't think anything was particularly far away. We're talking 75, 80 to 100 some yards, but just lots of shadows, lots of not great visibility, basically. So that really kind of hurt us. And we were nervous because the 2 teams before us, I think there's 3 teams that shot before us. 2 of them did not shoot at all. Did not find a single target to shoot. One of the guys found one of the targets and hit it. And that was it. Like, nothing else. Mike was able to find 3 targets. He was able to guide me onto one of them, so I got 3 hits. I think he got 9 hits. Besides that, like those other 2 targets, he could not guide me onto. Like I just could not, even with him giving me really good directions. We had set up a tripod, so we had a steady shooting platform at one point. He had his gun on the tripod pointed at the target, like he was looking through his optic, and then had me looking through his red dot at the target to try to see where it was at. And by the time I got back up on my gun, I still could not see it. This is something I have made a goal of mine. This is something we're going to try to practice and really work on. Traditionally, even at other stages and matches, when you got stuff hidden in the woods, my eyes just don't pick them up very well. So just something I'm going to have to practice. Definitely disappointing. I just couldn't see them. You know, you can't shoot what you can't see. And if I'm not confident that I know what I'm shooting at, I'm not just wildly like, oh, that kind of looks like a target, you know, just start firing off. I'm not going to do that. So, disappointing. Nothing, you know, it's how stuff like this works. You know, maybe we wouldn't have done any better earlier in the day. I have a feeling we would have, but just kind of how it works. So, Mike, what did you think of this?
Probably the most challenging hidden target presentation or hidden anything that I've ever seen in shooting. To me, this was the like level of hidden was like that dusk when everything is brown and the deer are moving and you can hardly tell there's a deer moving 20 yards in front of you, and it just it's hard to convey to someone who wasn't there just how difficult it was. I think that's probably the best example I can come up with for the sportsmen that have deer hunted and understand how at that twilight hour the deer just disappear in front of you the moment they stop moving. And so the field, the target presentation was kind of running along the side of a ridge. And so you're looking from the sun. My best guess is kind of east to west. So earlier in the morning, the shooters would have had the sun kind of behind them, which would put sun on the face of the steel and help maybe give it a little bit more of an outline. And as the sun progressed throughout the day, it went from light off the shooter's probably left shoulder to like from behind them to essentially their 3 o'clock position. Or sorry, not 3 o'clock. It would be their immediate left, so their 9 o'clock position. So the shadows were laying the same direction as the steel, which made it so you had no silhouette from front light or back light of the steel. The other thing is it's unpainted. It's a head and kind of like the top of the shoulders is the shape that they use for this. And unpainted steel is tough to find. That whole hillside was covered in beech trees. And if you're not familiar with beech trees, it's a smooth gray bark. It is literally the same texture as unpainted steel. And because the way the sunlight was going from your left to right, it made the shadows of those trees, the surface of the tree that wasn't directly hit by the sun, the exact same color as that steel. I might have been able to find more targets, like not toting my own horn, but I'm a fairly good woodsman, and I might have been able to find more targets. But I was really trying to, looking at how hard they were locate. I thought, man, I really want to vector Ryan in to try to get some hits on these. It got to the point that I was calling out species of tree, but there was enough blowdowns on that hill and broken out treetops that you couldn't use like, hey, that treetop is broken off over there, because guess what? In that angle away from you, there's 3 of them. So it's really difficult. I think next time Ryan and I might earlier on just maybe cut our loss and let me hunt more targets. But it was really hard to make that kind of judgment call. Ryan's a good shooter, so if I can make him see it, I know he can hit it. And yeah, that was big disappointment. But I think kind of the little consolation at the end of that was the ROs that watched us do that stage said that it was the number one, it was the most targets that were found later in the day. And then number two, it was the best communication they had seen between teammates all day. So with the level of shooters that were there, to get compliments from the ROs, in that last couple hours, saying that it was the best communication, the best attempts to try to talk each other on, to try to use paralleled optics, a primary LPVO with a top 12 o'clock dot to try to get your partner on. That was a pretty big compliment. We might try to see for the summer one, for the blind stage. We might try to hit that one early in the morning if they'll let us, because you don't have complete control of when you get to a stage.
It depends on last year, or the last summer one was in a different location though, so that's the other thing.
Yep,
different time of year, sun's later in the year. Yeah, Jimmy.
I don't think Jimmy's going to duplicate a location. That's not the point of this.
Yeah. And talking to Jimmy, it sounded like a lot of people struggled with this. And one of the things we like about this match is the match director, Jimmy, is always asking questions, talking to us, talking to other shooters, and trying to make the match better. So he's kind of mentioned some ideas he has to make it so it's still a hidden target stage, but maybe not quite so hard. Maybe some more obvious targets than to get harder for all of them, So I like the ideas he has. So, and I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve, some stuff we're gonna practice with between now and then. So we'll see how that goes. We'll tell you about it if it works out. So from there, that was our second to last stage. We've got all our rucks. We got one more stage. This was Precision Fire Kazovac. This went just as poorly for us. There was the target started from 340 yards up to 500. They're kind of up on a hill. They had two different team colors. There's like a yellow and a red or something like that. And then the problem for me in this is that there were some targets up there that were out of play, but that were supposed to be like spray painted with X's on them. I spent most of my time shooting at the targets that were not in play because I didn't realize that I was shooting at the wrong targets. And the way this worked is you and your team got down. They had some landscape timber type railroad ties that you kind of had to go prone under, and it was really an awkward angle. It was really a fun shooting position, but very awkward. And you shot so many rounds from there. Your teammate, I think you had 4 mags of 7, I think is what they did. You got as many points as you could shooting that once your gun went dry. One of the teammates went and grabbed this big dummy, took him up the hill, came back. From there, you shot 7 from that, 7 from a table, then went and did that. And then you had another 7 and a 7, and then your next teammate went to take the dummy up there. I don't even remember if did we get to the second dummy, Mike? I know neither of us shot very well on this. We didn't get very many points. Mike eventually found the targets. I think I eventually got 1 or 2, but it wasn't until the very end I realized I was shooting at the wrong target at all. So what do you have to add about this?
So that was one of them that we were definitely not pleased by our performance. If I remember, we were still upper third, which kind of blew my mind. But don't quote me on that. The first position was a prone, awkward up angle shooting up this hill. And it's exactly kind of what Ryan described. Was our targets on our side were yellow. There was red targets and yellow, and the other team, when they found out Ryan was colorblind, was super generous and gave us the yellow side. So, huge shout out to people that, they made a conscious choice to help a team they were competing against. It just shows the caliber of the people that show up to these matches. I wish I knew their names. But yeah, if you guys are listening, thank you. The downside, though,
absolutely. Thank you. And for those that don't know, like the thing with it is that red, if there's any green out there and there's a red on top of it, it's almost impossible for me to see it sometimes. Like that's just the nature of it, and it happens at matches. It's just what I deal with. But I do appreciate when people kind of let us do that, because it means a lot.
Yeah. So we ended up on the yellow side, which was good for our target visibility. But what had happened was, in my understanding, they had painted a blue X on targets not in play. Well, there was white, yellow, and red targets on that hillside, and with a snowy background, the white and the yellow kind of blended together, and then the yellow targets ended up being kind of, the ones out of play were actually larger than the ones in play. So they were bullet magnets, even with the blue spray paint. And the blue was kind of hard to tell in the shadow of this hill, with the shadows from the angles of the trees and everything. So, and then the sun was also, at that point, being our last stage, was coming into our eyes from our kind of 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock position. And so enough shooters had shot the targets that were out of play with the blue that the blue was almost invisible. This was my first match running a 12.5 that I built for this year for running gun. And I put a Night Force NX8 1-8 on it that Night Force had generously donated to a prize table. And so I was very happy to finally kind of have a home for it and run it. And this was my first big move away from a razor. And in my experience shooting that hillside was, I definitely noticed the tighter eye box and the smaller field of view coming off of a Gen 3 razor to it. That was a downside for this stage. The upside, though, was Night Force's glass is very clear. And so I was able to come onto those targets and realize, hey, there's no blue in the center, but I can see a faint bit of blue on the shoulders and down at like the waist of this silhouette. I bet that was an X. And then move to the next one. The downside of this running this new rifle, besides getting used to a new optic with a slightly tighter field of view and eye box, was it did not like the ammo that my other rifles had. And so I was running, at that time, I couldn't find anything I liked. My best round was 2 minutes of angle, which had gotten me through everything up to this point. But at 350, probably 4 something, maybe around 425, and then like 500. That was not a good thing. Shooting 2 MOA ammo from an unstable position, and talking to the match director, there was at least one target that was, I think, like 2.75 MOA. So it was not a recipe for getting hits. You know, I walked away with some lessons. I definitely was very unhappy. Normally, Ryan and I do pretty well in that like 3 to 500. This was the second Whiskey Hotel event that, Ryan and I kind of faltered a little bit there. And so we will be actually going and taking a class from Whiskey Hotel to try to resharpen our our intermediate carbine skills here in the next few months. But yeah, that was a little bit of a rough learning curve between target presentation, optics, trying to get stable in a really terrible shooting position. I walked away from there thinking like, wow, like that was, we probably are in the bottom 5 teams here. Being in the top third, if I remember, is mind blowing and tells me that as many teams struggled as we did, maybe more. So
Yeah.
we definitely had some takeaways from this that we'll be implementing with gear and training, and we're going to come back and really try to crush the long range stuff that we're going to see this summer.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, that's the point. We were walking away from that and just knowing like back to back 2 bad stages. And I was like, we had been feeling good, shooting pretty well, thinking like we got a pretty good chance of, being on a podium today. Like you never know. There's always that team out there, so you can't be sure, but you just get a good feeling like you've been shooting well. You've been kind of seeing some of the other scores, you're kind of keeping up with it. And at that point I was like, yeah, there's our chance gone. Surprisingly, we ended up in 4th place this time. And but then after the fact, after everything was scored and together, we were a half a point away from 3rd place and 1 point back from 2nd place. And then 1st place was like another 10 or so points, 20 points, something. They had a pretty decent lead, but those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th were just absolutely stacked. I mean, if you think about it, like one more shot, one more A zone on the very first stage, Mad Dash would have done it. One more target. If I would have got one more target on that last stage, we would have been tied for 2nd place. You know what I mean? Like it was just all so close. But that's how it is. I mean, I'm glad that we did as well as we placed, considering how poorly those last 2 stages. I guess that really means we shot well the rest of the day and rucked well. I know Jimmy said we were the only team in the top 5 to have 100% on the fitness stuff. So we kind of take pride in staying in pretty better shape. I mean, I'm 40, getting a little gray in the beard, but quite a few of these guys were up against. I see a lot of young guys out there that are a lot younger than me. So being able to kind of hang with them and do well is nice. Real quick, we'll hit the gear just in case people are wondering. We'll try to wrap this up though. It's gonna sound boring. I shot my 12.5 like I always shoot. AccuPower 1 to 8 on it. Shot my Thunder Beast can. Team matches, I think it's critical to have a can so that you guys can better communicate and you're not trying to yell over top of loud guns. Haley Strategic chest rig. I like that. It holds pretty much all the mags I need, and then I've got some admin pouches and stuff like that, which is nice. Besides for that, it was just staying warm. I don't think we mentioned the weather. It started off pretty chilly, and the ground was a little wet. I mean, they had gotten enough rain and snow runoff. There's like a little dam you have to cross over to get out of the bay, and at the beginning of the day, it was over top of the dam, like you're walking through water. That went down as the day went on, and the weather got a little bit better, but it was definitely a little bit chilly, so you definitely want to be dressed for the weather, but not dressed so much that you were sweating. So I felt like I hit that. Food, we ate, drank most of the day, so that we kind of kept as much energy as we could. Gear-wise, it wasn't really anything crazy. I did bring a tripod. I brought 2 shooting bags, a real big one, and then a smaller one. I used the big one. I never got my smaller kind of rear bag out, but if you're carrying if you need 25 pounds of weight, you might as well carry practical things. So I think everything was practical. 20 of that pounds was practical. I think I put like a small 5-pound sandbag in there just to get over that 25-pound mark. mark. So, Mike, are you going to share your gear real quick, and then we'll kind of look at wrapping this up?
Yep. I was just trying to grab the little bag that we used here. So this was a little bag that we set on top of fence post, or not fence post, but that fence rail. I guess it's an Armageddon gear. It was actually pretty nice, and I figured out, man, this thing fits in a lot of cargo pockets. So probably be seeing a lot more use out of this year. And then the new build is it's my SBR lower that I like to run. For this year, I threw one of the Magpul dual tension like precision carbine stocks on it. Moving away from like the SOP mod because I wanted something that had a little bit better bag rider. And as much as I love the old Voltor stocks, the QD don't have anti-rotation in them. So things get tangled up. It gets pretty annoying. I swapped in one of the quick safeties from Forward Controls and Sons of Liberty because I really like to have a super positive safety. It always drives me nuts when running through the course, you find sometimes your safety's turned off. To me, that always freaks me out a little bit, even though I'm running with an unloaded rifle through the majority of the running gun course. So change that up. So now for this upper. This upper is a LMT Spec War, and it's got a Ford Controls Sergeant Arms barrel that was converted by D. Wilson to run with the MRP system. And it's got a Lantac their enhanced nitrided carrier in it. And then for the Whiskey Hotel, I had a chemo with the Sandman K and the e-brake on the end, which makes for a super, super soft and pleasant shooting gun. But I think that might have been playing into effect of why I was struggling to find an ammo that it liked. It might have been too much weight harmonically. So that's why the Turbo K is on there now, and will probably be on there the rest of the year. So we've got an NX8 with the FC DMX mill, and got a little level on the other side, and then a Holson top dot. And so I think we'll be seeing this out for a lot more matches as I join Ryan in the 12-5 game. So, and then got a little grip stop on there that I can put against a barricade, and then I'll put a little section Arca rail on just so I can run a bipod in a pinch. But kind of the whole reason behind this was I wanted to try the 12.5, and I know Ryan really liked his, and some other friends of ours have really liked theirs, and this was a really good opportunity. And then this gave me a monolithic upper for night vision matches to be able to throw IR system on the front end and not worry about having a little bendy boy problem. And then for night vision stuff, I can either run the top dot or I can pull this off and throw a T2 on. So I've got the rail witness marked, so I can pull off one optic, put the other one on, torque it to spec, confirm 0, and then pull it off, put the other one back on, torque it to spec, confirm 0. And normally with the good mounts, if I do something like that, as long as I come back to the same ammo that I left it with, it's normally within like maybe 1 or 2 minutes of angle at 50 yards. Things return back pretty well. But other than that, my pack, my chest rig, it was everything else that you've seen over the years.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't mention my pack. I was running the ILBE, the Marine Corps. I mean, if you want to make weight, those packs are 10 pounds probably on their own. So I want to thank all the ROs that worked this match. I mean, it was a cold, damp day, and they all did a great job as always. So thank them. Thank the sponsors. Fox Jewelry, our friend Jason Fox sponsored it. RNG Tactics. Me and Mike both they had a random draw prize table. Got these little Nalgene, belt-mounted Nalgene bottle holders that were from Project Redacted, really well sewn. Looking forward to using that in some matches this summer. There's a whole bunch more. Venture Surplus, I know, sponsored them. I mean, they had quite a MDT, yeah, saw some
Yeah,
MDT stuff.
came out in a big way. Big shout to them. Glad to see them as an addition to this match.
So yeah, thank those sponsors. Thank the ROs again, and we'll cut the show off here. So hope to see you guys all out in a match.